you're stronger and better than you fucking been told. And you can be great, you can be excellent, you can be the best, you can be powerful. But don't be fucking guilty about being that. Stop falling for the guilt lies.
Yes.
Like, everything is designed around you to make you feel guilty, to make you abdicate literally the power that you have inside you. So go out there, claim it, be fucking unapologetic, build, create, love, travel, see, climb, be ascendant. And that means coming to terms with the fact that power is a beautiful thing. Power doesn't corrupt, power only corrupts the weak. Be strong, be powerful, be responsible, be loving, be compassionate, be courageous. Rise up, ascend. You're going to leave people behind. It's their duty to come with you or stay behind. That's it.
Hello, welcome to another episode of You're the Voice. Thanks for being with me. We are one day after Bitcoin Atlantis in Madeira, filming another interview with a person that I've met for the first time a few months ago, but it feels like I've known him for years. You know, I have this connection with some people that I feel like they're my brother from another mother. This is one of them, Aleks Svetski. Thanks for being with me, dude.
Thank you, Fred.
Okay, so just as an introduction, for those of you who don't know Aleks yet, and after this episode, I'm sure you're gonna either read his books or start reading his articles or following on Twitter or all of the above. Aleks is an author and entrepreneur. He's the author of the best-selling book, UnCommunist Manifesto. I just got a copy. And upcoming, the Bushido of Bitcoin. That's your next book coming up, right?
Yes.
Soon.
Can't wait. Yes, it's almost done.
Almost done. In 2018, he founded the #1 collectible publication called The Bitcoin Times and the world's first Bitcoin-only savings app called Amber.
Yes.
He's currently building open source Bitcoin and AI tools with the Spirit of Satoshi project and working on a new initiative called Satlantis.
That's right.
And we're going to try and touch most of this. I also want to touch some of your articles, like the last one that I read, Uber Money, which was fantastic. I loved it. But let's start with your background. Can you share a bit of your beginning, where you're originally from? You know, what do you want to tell us about?
How far back do you want me to go?
Childhood, if you want, wherever you want.
I was a twinkle in my mother's eye, or my father's eye. No, look, I was born in Australia to Macedonian parents, and I was, you know, bad boy, blah blah blah. I went to school, but I was very academically strong, so I got a bunch of scholarships given to me for university, and I went and took my scholarship money. I did civil engineering, but I put it on the stock market, and I taught myself to trade. And this was back in the age of, like, we didn't have LCD monitors, like we're still on these CRT, you know, the big white monitors. And the internet was still new. Like, we had 100 hours per month of internet usage at the library.
Yes.
So, like, I'd go to a lecture, and then between the lectures, I'd sprint to the library and get on and place trades. And I taught myself to trade derivatives, so, like, options and warrants. And I managed to turn, like, a $3,000 or $4,000 scholarship into $50,000. And I thought I was a genius. I'm like, man, I did my little spreadsheet, extrapolation. I said, you know, by the time I'm 25, I'll be a billionaire. I'll own the world. Off we go.
You're the Voice is brought to you by Trezor, the original Bitcoin hardware wallet company pioneering the development of self-custody for crypto assets since 2013, empowering individuals with an open source device, enabling beginners and experts to easily and securely hold their coins. I find my Trezor super easy to use and recommend it to my friends and family. Enjoy my 5% discount on Trezor products by clicking the link in the show notes and using the code FLAT.
But the first step was to be a millionaire. And a week before my 20th birthday, I was living in this, like, little shack of an apartment where I would literally, it was in, like, a bad area of town, and I had a motorbike, so I would, like, ride my motorbike up the stairs inside the apartment, and I would use my motorbike as my office chair. It's like I was broke. And but I was making money, so, like, I had this, like, plan. I was like, I'm gonna make $1 million. And anyway, I took all of my money and I placed it on this levered trade. It was a bank called Babcock and Brown at the time in Australia. And I woke up the next morning and I remember it was like the entire screen was like red. I think Babcock and Brown was down 60% and my options were down 96%. So I literally like just lost everything overnight.
When was that?
This was 2007.
Wow.
So right before the GFC. So it was like the tremors. And I think either Lehman or Bear Stearns or someone, I don't remember exactly what it was too long ago, but had just blown up. And then so like the shockwaves obviously started to ripple through. And anyway, that was the catalyst. So I was at university at the time, and that was the catalyst that sent me on my entrepreneurial journey. So I told you earlier today that I was an introvert. So like I was a hermit. I would get up at 5 a.m., I'd go to the gym, I didn't talk to anyone, I didn't have any friends. I would hit the gym, come back, I would read, then I'd go to the lectures. Between lectures, I'd run up and down to the library, place trades. Lunchtime, I would train again, then I'd go run up and down between lectures, come back, go home, eat, read, go and hit the gym again. I'd train 3 times a day. Like I was this like machine. And yeah, after that all happened, I ended up, stupidly enough, getting a bunch of loans from different banks so that I could trade my way out of the hole. And within about 6 months,
More
I was,
debt for the debt.
basically. I ended up, my plan was to be a millionaire by the time I was 20. I was $250,000 in debt by the time I was 20. So I kind of had the car in reverse at the starting out the wrong way. And that was what put me on my entrepreneurial journey, because the only way I could pay the bills was to go and like sell something. And I remember the last bit of money I had left, I remember what I did. I took it and I went to a Tony Robbins seminar. I had no idea who he was. Like,
So how did you know to go there?
I don't know, I just followed my gut. I saw a YouTube video and I was like, I should go. And I went, and I remember like the first 2 days I was like right up the back. I was like, what's this cult, a bunch of weird people. And, something unlocked in me. And then I went and started studying NLP. I became one of the youngest hypnotherapists and NLP practitioners in Australia at the time. I started working with people who wanted to commit suicide, this and that. And I just learned how to communicate. And I took that and I took it on door-to-door sales. So like here I am knocking on doors, selling, and I became the best salesperson in the country. And I didn't even have a TV. I didn't know what was on pay television. I didn't know any of that sort of stuff, but I just learned how to communicate. And yeah, slowly by slowly, dug myself out, and then, built businesses, blew them up, built businesses, blew them up, built businesses, blew them up.
A real entrepreneur.
Yeah, had this whole journey, and anyway, that sort of brought me to Bitcoin around 2016, and then
How? Why?
what happened? So I'd heard about Bitcoin when I was post that whole GFC thing, while I was knocking on doors.
GFC, Great Financial
Crisis. Yeah, exactly.
Great crisis. Yes.
During 2008. So
Yep.
that sent me down the gold and silver rabbit hole, right? So I used to follow Max Kaiser, Doug Casey, Mike Maloney, all these OG like gold bugs basically. So I started buying gold and silver.
Yep.
And like that, I did very well out of that. Like that, all the money that I lost and everything, I made that multifold.
You bought actual assets, or
I bought hard, like I had gold bars and silver bars everywhere, like, and I remember like, running around trying to buy like the silver eagles and this and that. It was crazy. But I also
was it hard to get?
I mean, it got so scarce at the time, right? So,
Really?
I remember buying the silver eagles at like $8 and selling them for like $50, $60 later.
Wow.
Like, I did really well out of that. And also options, warrants, everything I could get my hands on. So I did quite well out of that. But that was when I first heard about Bitcoin. And I can't remember if it was like an article or Max Kaiser jumping up and down on a couch telling people to buy Bitcoin. Like it was something, right? But I ignored it. I just was like, yeah, whatever. I got my hard money. I got gold, silver. I didn't care. And, I just continued my entrepreneurial path. I built like a renewable energy company. I got into hospitality. I got into every stupid conceivable business you could think of. I did. Some successful, some blew up, whatever. And it wasn't until 2016 I met with this friend who was just a degenerate. And he's like, bro, have you heard about this thing called Bitcoin? I was like, yeah, is that thing still? And he's like, yeah, man, my friend made like $1 million out of it. He put like 20 grand in. And I was like, what? And like, I looked at it and it was like $500 at the time, $600. And I was like, shit, I remember this being like
Nothing.
Single or double digits. Like, I was like, what the hell? And that just sort of like got me digging again. And I remember at the time I was interested. I started like re-digging into philosophy and how the world functions, and like there was a boom around 2015, 2016 of like these origins books, and yeah, just some things clicked for me for Bitcoin. That's when I just started writing in public about Bitcoin, and that was sort of how people came to know me. And simultaneously, I launched Amber, which was the first Bitcoin savings app in the world, actually. We did it in Australia, and then, yeah, my journey sort of started there. So anyway, the long, short story.
So you started with Bitcoin for the money, really, because for you it was not another investment opportunity.
Yeah, I wanted to make much money.
And what did you discover when you were inside that game already?
Yeah, so like I have a little saying, it's like I came for the money, but I stayed for the money. Like, so it's, you start to understand what that means. And it, like, I quickly caught on. I think I was one of the very first few Bitcoin maximalists, at least in Australia. Like, and I started all these meetup groups, and we started like excluding the shitcoiners and stuff like that. And just something about it, like I went from just making a bunch of money to like realizing there's something really profound and important here. And and one of my businesses in 2013, 2014. I had a big battle with the Australian government where they distorted the entire solar industry, and like a bunch of people lost money. Like I lost millions overnight, and like I had this distrust for government already. Mm-hmm. I was always a bad boy, so like give me anything anti-authoritarian or anti-totalitarian, I should say, and that's intriguing to me. And I was already like I had this gold and silver thing from before, so like. All the ingredients, like, sort of added up, and just like, Bitcoin just made sense. Like, it clicked, boom, I love this, and there's something deep and profound here. And, I genuinely believe the period between 2017 and 2021 was Bitcoin's golden age in terms of thinking. Mm-hmm. Like, so you had Breedlove, Gigi, Eric Kaysen, myself, like, you had these, John Vallis, like, these thinkers come up and sort of, like, find all this nuance in Bitcoin. And you had this sort of like almost renaissance, like a million books came out about Bitcoin, about everything about it. And it was
tell me about it. I'm catching up now with all those books already out.
Yeah, like
crazy.
We all started, basically it all started from us just writing articles. Mm-hmm. And that's how we found each other. We were just like, we were writing, I told you earlier, Breedlove wrote his like treatise on like time, money, energy, or whatever it was. Mine was Homo sapiens, evolution, money, and Bitcoin, or something like that. Gigi started writing these deep pieces about time and energy and Bitcoin. So we're all sort of like writing the same things, but in our own words. And it all started off with essays. I believe Gigi was the first one to sort of publish a book, and he wrote the 21 Lessons. Like, it's a gorgeous little book, really easy to digest, and yeah, gave everybody else the idea that maybe we should also write a book. And now, like, everyone's written 10,000 books. So obviously the Bitcoin Standard, like, was the thing that hit and, like, became, like, the central piece of all of this literature. But there's some incredible stuff out there now.
There are. Okay. What happened to you during COVID? Before we dive into the essays and the books and everything.
I lost my mind.
I mean, I'm interviewing on my podcast a lot of dissident voices to the establishment and government, and doctors, lawyers, politicians. Most of them talk about COVID and what it did to them and what it did to their countries. I find that in the Bitcoin community, a lot of people were hurt during COVID, just like many other people around the world, but they don't talk about it much. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether they really don't want to show that they are a dissident voice in COVID because they want to continue being liked by everyone and they don't want to rock the boat, or whether everyone just agrees with everything that happened, which is completely totalitarian. Totally. And, Bitcoin is supposed to be like freedom movement. So what happened to you during that time?
Yeah, there was like 3 really loud voices, probably 4 in the Bitcoin space that were like totally anti-COVID. It was Saifedean, Francis, Giacomo, and me. And we just called it out early. This is bullshit. And, we started writing about it, talking about it, and all this sort of stuff. And we were sort of like the real dissident voices in Bitcoin. And at the time, I was nomading. And I actually have a really funny story, which was I was in Berlin when it all happened. I was supposed to be flying to the States for what was supposed to be Bitcoin 2020. And I was in this Airbnb, and the one night I was like with a Tinder date, and
As you do.
as you do, and like I was like trying to have like multiple Tinder dates, and
At the same time?
at the same time, of course. And I'd literally just gone on a date with one, and then I came home with a date with another.
No, seriously.
Yes, and
Oh man.
and I had this little Sony speaker, like this little portable speaker, and I had it on at home, with this girl that I was hooking up with, and the neighbors called the cops on me for whatever reason, and we were like we were high on weed, and anyway, like I was so paranoid that I thought the cops had come for like the weed and everything like that. So like we had this like bag of weed on the bed, and I like threw it out the window. And, like,
This is the movie scene.
it was this funny thing. So actually, what had happened was before the cops got called, like I had walked her down, and like the cops were at the front of the apartment block, and like they're banging on the door, and they're like, they said this name like Oldenburg or something like that. I'm like, who? What the hell? I'm like, hi, and like what are you talking about? And anyway, they like sort of walked into the building and started walking up the stairs, like these like old Berlin sort of like
Yes.
apartments. So they're like checking all the names of the thing. So like I say goodbye to the girl, and then it clicks that Oldenburg was the Airbnb that I was in, and that's when I was like, oh crap, they came for the weed. So like I jumped in the elevator, I got in there, and I heard them like walking up the stairs. So I ran inside the thing, grabbed the weed, threw it out the window, and they go bang 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 on the door, and they're like, Oldenburg, and I was like, I open up, and they're like, you, and I was like, because they saw me at the front, they'd asked, and I was like, no, nothing, and they're like, they come in and they're like, what's this music? And I'm like, what? And
I'm
like,
on a date.
The music, and they're like, but the thing is, like, it didn't register, and even for them, it didn't register because the music was like playing so softly. It was just like some angry German next door, like just to like call the cops, and they're like looking at me, they're like, the music is too loud. I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, you must turn it down, or we come and confiscate the speaker. I was like, okay, so like I turned down the speaker. Is that better? And they're like, yeah. So they like leave, and I look at the bed, and the weed's sitting there on the bed because the window wasn't open. Like the flat screen was there. So
You're such an
if they
idiot.
came for the weed, like it was right there. So anyway, nothing happened. But the next day, the Airbnb lady, she like cancels my Airbnb. She's like, you must get out because the police were called. So you have to leave. And I was like, what? And that was the day that the lockdowns happened. So Bitcoin crashes in price, and I had like Bitcoin on BitMEX at the time, which I was trading levered. So like I was getting margin called. I had some loans with Unchained, with Bitcoin. So I was getting margin called by Unchained. I was getting margin called by BitMEX. I was we had just raised money with our business as well at the time, and we were like, some of our money was in Bitcoin, and we had customers like with it. So it was like this massive clusterfuck, and I'm just trying to manage all of this from the stairs inside the building because I can't get in the apartment because I got thrown out, and I'm like sitting there like panicking and everything. So one of the Tinder dates, she calls me, she's like, oh, what are you up to? And I was like, freaking out, I'm trying to save my company, my money, I'm about to go broke. And she's like, and I was like, I can't find an Airbnb because, Airbnb like canceled all bookings and all this sort of stuff, so I couldn't make anything. I couldn't book at a hotel. She's like, oh, don't worry, come stay with me. So I go and I stay with her, and this is where the story gets even funnier is, it's okay for like the first couple of days, but turns out she's like a raging communist who's like sitting there and saying, what's wrong with these people? Everybody should be locked in their house for 2 weeks. And I'm like sitting there like working, and I'm like, excuse me? She's like, yeah, everyone should be locked in their houses for 2 weeks until this thing is over. I'm like, who's going to pay the bills? And she's like, the government. And I was like, where does the government get the money from? She's like, that doesn't matter. And I was like, but it does. I'm like, I've got to pay for that. Like, it's my taxes. And like, she does nothing. She was like a trust fund baby or whatever it was, like got money from her parents. And it was like this awkward situation where she had gone and told her work that she was in touch with a COVID person so she could get time off work, and she put both of our names down. So I was locked in a house with her for like 3 weeks and couldn't go anywhere. It was like the funniest situation. So basically, my COVID journey started with being stuck in a random Tinder date's house for 3 weeks and wanted to kill each other. And then, yeah, so anyway, what happened to me during COVID? That's what happened. And basically...
Yeah, that's a great start for...
A fractal of that was the rest of my COVID situation.
Yeah. People simply lost it during that time. Cool. Thanks for the story. It's insane. Okay, I've got really important stuff to ask you. So let's go. So you mentioned it a little bit, authoritarian versus totalitarian regimes. You did a panel on it now at Bitcoin Atlantis. Can you give me a taste of your view about it and what we're seeing around the world right now?
So I'm pro-authoritarian.
And I want you to explain that.
Yeah, anti-totalitarian. So authoritarian, the word author or authority derives from the essence of competence, of self-ownership, right? And authority is a good thing. We used to respect authority, you know. There was a master and his apprentice. There was the teacher and the students. There was the parents and the children. You know, now these days the children are the boss of the parents. Like, you know, everything's become inverted, and what we don't have is, we don't have authoritative hierarchies anymore. We've tried to flatten everything, and in the process of flattening everything, what you do is you create this sort of middle management bureaucratic sort of apparatus, which is totalitarian in nature. So to give you a sort of, maybe just a visceral sense of what totalitarianism is, you know when someone's like just standing here, like right behind you, and just like looking over. Like imagine a manager, like you're trying to type something and they're just like standing here looking, watching. Like that's totalitarianism. It's like, it is surveillance oriented, it is micromanagement oriented, it is a projection of you're too dumb, stupid, incompetent, you know, NPC, like you can't do anything yourself, so therefore you must be herded like a sheep. And that's the world we're living in today. It's like increasingly totalitarian and decreasingly authoritarian. People call Bukele an authoritarian.
Yeah.
And they say that
or
in a degrading
dictator.
way. Exactly. I actually think it's a good thing. I think he is an authoritarian. And you see his competence has absolutely transformed a country that was a clusterfuck beforehand. So we need more of that. We need more people who have the capacity to bring competence and structures and hierarchy and strong leadership to the communities, the cities, the countries, or whatever they're in. So that's my nuance on that. And I think it's a really important nuance, because people run around, they're always like yelling, bitching, screaming about, oh, it's authoritarian. And it's like, no, shut up. It's about totalitarianism. Like, it's very important that we specify the language in the right way. And that's my thing. And COVID was a totalitarian movement. It wasn't authoritarian. There was no intelligent authority or competence about it. There was none of that stuff. It was just this whole, we're all in this together, like everyone has to wear masks, you know, it's not for your safety, it's for my safety somehow, and it's for everyone's safety, whatever that means. Like, you know, the amount of like stupidity, and I was in Germany most of the time, the amount of stupidity that I saw, like, I remember I'd be the only one on the trains not wearing a mask. Like every single time, I used to like carry a little fake ID with me. You know, I'd get like the masked Nazi police officers, you know, oh, you must wear a mask. I don't have one, I'm sorry. Oh, here's a mask. And then, you know, I get it, I throw it away. I'm like, look, just give me a fine. You know, and they would just give me a fine, but always on this fake ID. So whoever, like, John Smith was, had a whole lot of fines in Germany. But, like, it's just, you know, I just didn't care. It was just such a scam. And I don't know, like, I refused to believe in the scam. And I think the biggest problem we had as a civilization was there was a couple of people that were crazy enough, like you and I, that would say no to this. But more often than not, we were isolated, and that's when they would like pounce.
Yes.
It was always on a plane or a train or a thing or whatever, right? And I always say to people, like, as much as I, like, particularly in the UnCommunist Manifesto, I talked about individualism a lot. Extreme individualism is a weakness, because it isolates you, makes you lonely, and you are far easier to pinpoint and to attack and to break when you're alone versus, you know, a tribe.
The power of the group.
Exactly. And you need strong groups, you need strong tribes, and that's actually fundamentally what we need to be building if we want to, restructure the world. But anyway, I'm going off on tangents here. So.
But we'll get back to that when we talk about Satlantis, I think. I read Uber Money, an excellent article. I'll put a link to it in the show notes so people can read it. I want to read an excerpt from it. I can read the whole thing, but I just chose something. History has proved this again and again, with the modern world being the most evident example. We live in a world of excessive quantities and ever-receding quality. Everywhere you turn, there is mass media, mass retail, mass politics, mass food, mass markets, mass social media, mass consumption, mass hysteria, mass medicine, mass money, mass everything. As a result, few of these things carry weight or value anymore. They contain no charge. They have no energy. They are like worthless Zimbabwean hyperinflated toilet paper money. And from this kind of world, high quantities of low-quality character people emerge. And then you go on to claim that Bitcoin makes the strongest stronger, the best better, and the most powerful more powerful. And you talk about strong individuals creating stronger societies and weak individuals creating weak societies. I want to get your take on that.
So I'm the ultimate Bitcoin contrarian. Like, I'm always disagreeing with Bitcoiners, and I just think that, I was saying it yesterday in the car, I was like, a lot of what's happening in the Bitcoin space is now, it's like, it's almost people just cheer for everything. It's like, Bitcoin is energy, woo! We need more women in Bitcoin, woo! Bitcoin is for the people, woo! Banking the unbanked, woo! Like, that's how, like, if you want to get, yeah. I was thinking of, like, literally just doing a talk on stage one day and just calling it Bitcoin platitudes and just, like, reading each one.
All the slogans.
Exactly, and just like, get everybody to clap.
Yeah.
So I really depart from a lot of Bitcoiners, like, around the egalitarian movement, around, like, the equality movement. Like, I believe Bitcoin will bring back feudalism, and I think feudalism is the greatest structure for a society. So this triggers a lot of people, and I'll explain that soon. As I said, I like authoritarianism. Let me start with this. I'm an elitist. I'm a total elitist. I believe in a class structure. I believe people are fundamentally different. Some people are either born or crafted, or both, most likely to lead. Others are born to and crafted, etc., to support. Others to build. Others to fight. Others to follow, etc. Like, we have different people for a reason. Like, people literally do personality tests to try and find out, what their nature, what they're predisposed towards. And then somehow, we have no classes in society. Yes, we do. People are different. And we have these archetypical natures, that is really important to sort of understand. Now, to talk to the first piece about quality over quantity. So I wrote an entire essay about that for Bitcoin Magazine. It sort of like extrapolates on that specific paragraph that you read. But quality is the antithesis to quantity. And what matters in life, at an individual level, and at the collective state, or civilizational level, I shouldn't say state, but at the collective and civilizational level, is the focus, right? If you focus on quality, you produce things that are excellent, unique, ascendant, charged, energetic, but there is fundamentally fewer of those things, but it lifts civilization up, right? When you go the opposite way around and you try and get mass quantities of stuff, you cheapen things. There is the word derives from the Norse weird, which sort of meant like destiny and place, and the relationship there is like, when you said something, you sort of created it, or you put it into being. And this is why the Norse didn't talk a lot. They just said, and they manifested, or they created out of it. As soon as you started talking too much, you cheapen the words. You create more quantity of it, and there's less quality. And in the modern world, we're all guilty of this. We all talk too much. We don't do as much. Philosophy, I think, has been a cancer to civilization in many ways. So is psychology, because instead of doing things, we just talk about doing things. And so this has been something that I've had to come to terms with a lot in recent years as I've started to attack my own prior ideas. Because I try to do that as much as possible. It's like, okay, I considered myself a philosopher before, and now I'm like, I try to philosophize less, unless I'm in this sort of setting. So, quality is a North Star, but quality, by definition, is elitist. Like, the word elite means the quality layer of anything, right? Of a people, of a food,
Substance,
of a structure, or of a substance, of anything, right? And what we've done is we've accidentally given the word elite to a bunch of parasites. Like, we call people like Christine Lagarde elite. There's nothing elite about this person. Like, there's a lot of parasitical stuff about this person, but they're not elite. So maybe at the very best, because they are in like the cream of the crop in terms of the current social structure, which is broken, we could call them parasitic elites. But we need to reclaim the word elite. Like, traditionally, historically, civilizationally speaking, the elite were the best of us. Usain Bolt is an elite runner because he's the best. Alexander was the elite of all kings because he was the best. So Djokovic is an elite tennis player. That's what elite means, to be the best, to be the greatest. And that is worth aspiring towards. Like, we have changed our direction, like what we gaze towards. Like, there's that interstellar saying, right? We used to look up at the stars and compete with like who's going to get there. Now we squabble about our place in the dirt, right? Like, our gaze has gone from up there to down there because we are focused on the average man.
Yep.
Like, we are focused on equality. We are focused on egalitarianism. And all of these things...
even worse word, equity.
Equity, equality, they're all in the same garbage, because the problem with these things is they are descendant and they are equalizing. You can never equalize on the way up. You can only equalize by cutting everything down to the same level. And this is so fundamentally important, is we cannot be seeking equality if we want a functional, striving, growing, ascendant society. And I've come to find that even in the Bitcoin space, a lot of it is about, equality, and, it's about the little man and, the rising people. It's like, no, it is about a framework for excellence where the people who are the best win. The people who are the strongest, the people who are the most powerful, the people who are the best, the people who are willing to work for the most productive, etc., they're the ones who get rewarded the most. Because in any functional zero-sum game, there has to be winners and there has to be losers, and the purpose of the game is to drive an unequal result so that winners are rewarded and losers learn a lesson so that they can later become winners. That creates a society that is growing and ascendant.
Okay, and then I challenge you. So how do we get to the public adopting this thing called Bitcoin if we're just aiming for the best and the brightest and the strongest?
You inspire people to be the best and the brightest and the strongest. Simple as that. This is not a handout. This isn't fucking welfare. This isn't, we're here to help the poor people and all this sort of shit. This is about an opportunity for those who want to get off their ass, do something with their lives, create, build, construct, rise, do all of these things, to have a framework in which to do it and to have a tool by which to be that.
So some would say, and I'm playing devil's advocate here,
Please.
Some would say that maybe society or the masses are not able to be what they're not. They're not able to be their best and brightest. They continue to eat the bullshit that they're being sold and listen to the lies, and they're not even going to get there. So
what that means is, for the few who want to do that, they have less competition. So if you're listening to this, you're one of the few who have that capacity. There's a reason why Noah's Ark didn't save everybody. It saved a few. Like, I'm sorry, but like this is something that people have to get through their heads. Is like the guilt complex around, I have to help all the masses and shit.
Yes.
No, that is exactly what the parasites use against otherwise strong and good people, to make us feel guilty that we're leaving everybody behind.
And to bring us down and to be resigned and and not try.
Yeah, correct. And what they do is they make the masses, they point them at the productive people of society, and Ayn Rand talked about this a lot. The looters and the moochers or whatever create narratives that the producers are the evil people, and that they're the ones who are taking from you. And you see this with like this idiot, what's that politician, the old...
Which one of them? Let's choose.
The one in... that's like super anti-Bitcoin in Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
She's like literally a character out of Atlas Shrugged. Like literally a character out of Atlas Shrugged. Blaming, businesses and everything who provide products and services for the inflation, right? Like, so these idiots create the problem, they blame someone else. And that's the civilization we live in. So to come back to like, one thing, like to use a Matrix analogy, right? In the Matrix, remember when Neo and Morpheus are walking, and Morpheus is explaining like, this is the construct, and in the Matrix, all of these people could be an agent because most of them are not ready to be unplugged, and most of them are so inured and attached to the system that they will actually fight to defend it. Mm-hmm. So I don't bother anymore helping the person who is drowning because he's going to try and drown me as well. Mm-hmm. Like, learn to swim. If you don't learn to swim, I'm not going to help you. Now, if they are my kin, if they are my tribe, more than likely, if they are my tribe, they will be people who are doing their best to be self-sufficient. But within the tribal framework, and that is very small, the tribal framework is very small. You can't have a large tribe because you can't have a deep relationship with too many people. Mm-hmm. But within that framework and context, you do help people because you want to bring yourselves up and grow and strengthen as a tribe. But you can't do that at scale with people that you don't know and you don't really care about. And that's the inversion that we've got happening in the West today, is we've been taught to tribalism is bad, so you must hate everybody in your tribe and you must not help them, but you must be guilty and responsible for everybody else. We've inverted the whole thing. And this is the thing, we live in the inversion economy, in the inversion civilization. Everything is upside down. Men are women, women are men, the inferior are superior, the superior are inferior, or like everything is upside down. We must be guilty for everybody else, all this sort of bullshit. Quantity over quality, weakness is strength, all this sort of stuff. Like everything is inverted. So we need to go back to what is instinctual, energetic, vital, ascendant, which is, no, fuck you. I have the capacity to be the best version of myself, and I will go out and do that and create that and be that. And those who are inspired by that, they're your people, they're your tribe. Mm-hmm. The rest of the fucking lemmings, let them keep walking off into the lava. You can't help them.
Love it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't love it, but I love it.
You
AI. Love it. Let's talk about AI. If I have more time, I'll come back to this article, which is fantastic. Your take on AI. I'm taking one person I really, really dislike, Yuval Noah Harari and Elon Musk, for example. Their approach for AI is that, we're walking towards the end of humanity. If we don't restrain the power of AI, it's going to take over us. And, they have this gloom and doom vision of where AI can take humanity. So in their eyes, it's dangerous for society, and therefore they're calling to regulate it so that they can protect me, little me. Again, it's for my own good. And in my opinion, regulation is just another sign of them wanting to be protected by the law for things that they may do with AI in the future. When I say they, I don't just mean Yuval and Elon Musk, but the big corporations or companies that are going to implement AI on a massive scale that will probably be in some form or another used by the institution to surveil on people. Back to our point on totalitarian regimes. So regulation is always a protective measure in my eyes for corporations, never for the individuals. Mm-hmm. What is your take on AI, especially when we combine that with the concept of universal basic income, UBI, and where that can take us in the context of socialism? So
AI is really 99% scam, 1% interesting. I've been down this rabbit hole,
just so people understand, so you have an initiative, a whole project about AI. So you're learning this topic very deeply.
We have an AI company. We are probably the premier, team on the planet that works at the nexus of AI and Bitcoin. We are doing research that nobody else is doing, which is trying to extract biases out of language models and embed new biases. Like, this is stuff that nobody's doing. So, we know this stuff deeply. And what I can tell you is most of AI is a scam. It's like one big, let's pump NVIDIA's bags Ponzi scheme, right? So I'll lay out a couple things. Thing number one is 99.9% of these AI companies make no money. There's no business model here. The business model is keep raising money. And what happens is, like, the LPs of these VC funds are usually...
LPs are limited partners. Those are the investors of the VC funds.
Correct. And they're usually NVIDIA, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, right? So they give the money to the VC funds. The VC funds invest in startups, and then the startups spend all their money on compute with Amazon, NVIDIA, Google.
So it's a circular direction.
It's one big laundry. And then what happens is NVIDIA just pumps their bags. NVIDIA has become a $2 trillion company for, like, literally just burning through GPU resources. Has anybody done anything useful or made any money? No. Language models really that useful? I would argue no. Like, I've literally been building out language models. They might be good for, like, maybe prompting an idea. They're, like, useful insofar as they're like a probabilistic search engine that can string together a couple words. But these things are just probability machines, and they're not that great anyway, because they're a reflection of the data that they're trained on, and they are not creative, and there is no emergent properties. A lot of people thought that there was a bunch of emergent properties with language models, and that was a projection, our human projection onto something that, for the first time in history, talked back to us. Like, before language models, we had parrots. Like, and if a parrot said, "I'm going to kill you," like, you're not going to be like, "Oh my God, it's going to take over the world." You're like, "That's a fucking parrot," But, like, you say that to a language model, and the language model says, "I'm going to kill you." That's like, "Oh my God, it's alive. It's going to kill us all," right?
Sentient in a way.
It is totally not sentient. We are totally not getting to AGI. This is like a nerd's wet dream. Like, people like Yuval Harari, who are still virgins at, like, 50 years old, they're the kind of people who believe that AI is, like, going to come and, like, take over the world and be sentient, right? Like, they're dorks. So I have no respect for the dorks. I don't listen to them. I just laugh at them. And essentially, what you've got going on with this AI thing is it's mostly smoke and mirrors. It's like Wizard of Oz, right? It's so probability-based that it's so funny. It's like people throw a bunch of data at these models. They run a bunch of training. It's basically like mixing a cauldron full of words. And then, like, what it comes out the other end, they're like, "Oh, we figured out something." And, like, they don't know how it actually worked, but they're like, "Okay, something happened here." And it's all just, like, experimentation, R&D. And it's just the law of large numbers and patterns applied to language. And all we found through language models, and it's funny, if you looked at AI books like that idiot Nick Bostrom who wrote Superintelligence, dumbest book on the planet. Like, if you want to lower your IQ, go and read Superintelligence. Moronic. That book was, like, adamant that when AI figures out language, it's an AI complete problem, which means we're going to get general intelligence, superintelligence, and it's all over. All we figured out, now that we figured out language, is that language is largely patterns, and that, the same kind of AI neural processing that happens for, like, matching a rider and a driver on Uber is now doing autocomplete for sentences. That's all it is. There's nothing more fancy about this, nothing more interesting about this. But to tie it back to why they want to regulate it, these tools are fundamentally going to change the way we search for information and understand information and find information, all that sort of stuff. So they're kind of going to be like a Wikipedia meets Google search, just more conveniently, right? So instead of searching Google for a thing, you just ask ChatGPT and it'll tell you something. This is where it gets interesting, is most people don't go past the second or third result on Google. So whatever Google says at the top is gospel.
Right.
They'll do the same with ChatGPT. Now, if you upstream regulate what words are safe and what things are safe, you will downstream.
Or true.
Exactly.
By
or,
the
or,
powers that
you know,
be.
true, safe, and responsible. They're the
Yes.
three words. When you hear those, you run.
Yes.
Those things downstream will produce outputs that people will lap up. It's like, oh, you know, vaccines are all safe and effective, you know, or whatever the case is, right? Add to that the filters that they place on these things, and you've just got these, like, inception machines, which sort of incept idiotic ideas into people's brains. So that's where the danger is. That's where they're trying to regulate it. Once again, the idiot sheeple and masses will, like, lap that shit up. They'll buy that stuff. I think the joke's on them is that people are building, you know, language models that are outside of the mainstream, so there's a lot of competition, although they're not that great, to be honest. No one really uses them. But whatever. I think it's over-exaggerated, the power of what AI will do. I'm not afraid of AGI, so, like, even Elon and all that sort of stuff are, like, wrong there, so we don't have to worry about that too much. Do we have to worry about having, like, a Big Brother-esque control over language? Possibly. But
Not just language, but ideas.
language, ideas, thinking, yeah. But in the funniest way, I call AI midwit obsolescence technology.
Midwit obsolescence technology. Okay.
So the midwits basically self-own themselves because now, if you ever want an opinion from a midwit CNN reporter, just ask ChatGPT. Now that idiot lost his job. Because that's all these things do, is they regurgitate just... Have you ever, like, asked ChatGPT to write you anything useful? It's just platitude after platitude after platitude. It does, like, it says a lot of words, doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you and I, people with, like, actual substance and, like, agency, like the non-NPCs, we've never had it easier. Because now we can write something and it literally stands out from the junk. So this is why it's like, it's funny, it's like one whole circular self-own by the nerds who thought they won, but they just obsoleted themselves and all of their dork friends who think that AGI is going to take over the world. So anyway, for me, AI is like mega cringe. I'm not afraid of it. We're not going to die from it.
You're harnessing it, no problem.
I'm using it where it's useful, and to be honest, the utility is much smaller than what we imagine. And we're going to have a massive AI winter in the next 18 to 24 months when everybody realizes that nobody made any money.
Really?
So it's going to be hilarious.
We're going to see companies close down, investments collapse,
Totally. It's going to be hilarious.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that. And just on UBI, this is like, to me, UBI is like the easy way for lazy people to continue being lazy bums. Like, we don't even have to say it. I just want people to understand the combination of UBI and AI is just taking us down the path of continue being those batteries for the matrix, those energy providers. You're not going to be as productive as before because you're going to be sitting at home and receiving money for doing not much, but you're still going to participate in society. You're still going to be paying the money that the government gives you to pharma, so you're still going to be feeding that beast.
Well, the third demon that you haven't mixed in there is democracy.
Democracy.
So you add all of this stuff up, and you layer in some democracy, and basically all of these lemmings who depend on UBI, who midwits that AI does all the work for them, they're the ones who have the same vote as you and me. So this is why democracy doesn't work. It's literally giving the same right and voice to the Muppets. And this is exactly the parasite game. Is the parasite who doesn't want to do any work, he wants to weaponize the Muppets, the lemmings, whatever we want to call them, the masses, to extract wealth from the productive class.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you again. So Bukele, for example, was chosen in democratic elections. Are there no lemmings in El Salvador that have given him power? How come they saw through the... They felt, he got 86% of the vote. Yeah,
they felt his his energy, they felt his charisma, and this is the power of the charismatic leader, the Caesar, the Alexander, the Napoleon. They can draw the spirit out of people. So UBI is a spirit killer. Leadership, greatness, grandeur, excellence is a spirit enlivener. So that's the way to counteract this. And then we need tools like Bitcoin, like some open source AI tools, like Satlantis, community tools and everything like that we're building. These are the things, these are the tools, these are the weapons that must be wielded by the strong, powerful, vital characters. Right. And that empowers those who choose to wake up to do that. But time is running out because once UBI and everything comes in, it creates a gravitational pull on even the ones who are otherwise good, who could have been awoken by that spirit of greatness and that vitality. The allure of free, cheap money, doing nothing, plugging myself into a fucking VR headset and making the AI do all my work for me, and like that starts to become alluring, and it drags you down. So if anything, it's incumbent on us to wake the fuck up, drop all the egalitarian fucking narratives and all that sort of stuff, and claim power and greatness. Because if we don't, the parasites will continue to pump sludge and UBI and seed oils and everything into everybody else.
You said something really interesting in one of the interviews that I listened to. You said, when you learn something really, you know it here. You don't know it here, like you know it in the body. Okay, I want you to talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so true knowledge is visceral. It's not mental, and this is why I was beating up philosophy before, right? So philosophy is cerebral, and this is where all the AI and the nerds and all the dorks are, right? Like everything is cerebral. Real knowledge happens in the body when you you go through these layers of mastery. You have, most people have heard of this.
Oh my God, sorry I'm interrupting you. This is exactly what we talked about in the cafe before.
Yeah.
You had to go through what you had to go through during COVID and even before in order to really know it in your body, I guess. And not just here understanding them. Maybe that's the wrong way of operating or the wrong thing to do. You had to feel it. You had to experience it. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. So, visceral learning is the most powerful, and I believe in some sense, whether it's shaping your DNA, your spirit, your soul, whatever it is, when you learn something in the body, you have transformed.
Yep.
Fundamentally speaking, and this is what the nerds and the parasite class want you to forget. They want to disconnect you from your body.
Yes.
They want to lock you in in your home for 2 weeks that becomes 2 years, so that you don't get any sunshine, so that you don't move, so you don't feel, so that you push everything into the brain, right? Like even this is why I don't like all these spiritual hippie movements. It's like mind over matter, or it's like mindfulness and all this stuff. No. It should be bodyfulness.
Okay.
That is where like the grounded truth is. It's not like about escaping and separating from the body. It's like, when people say it's like, oh, you're in a meat suit, like, you're so much more. It's like, no. You're in a fucking meat suit. Do you get what that means? Like, your body is the most complex organism in the fucking universe. That is powerful. That is important. That is like, I have a whole couple of chapters on this called like physiopsychology in the Bushido of Bitcoin. Like I grapple with this concept, which is the nerds want to separate you. They want to turn you into a brain in a vat. Building a vital, powerful, strong body is fundamentally more important even than reading books and doing all that sort of stuff. Like, go out, be, have sex, like, do all of that stuff. That is what makes us humans, and we've come to forget that with the move into intellectualizing everything. So
yeah, I'm with you entirely. Yuval Noah Harari always says that there is no such thing as soul, God, all these ideas, all these funny ideas. We're data machines.
Yeah. This is the thing. So they want to but that's his own projection, because that's what he is. Because he's an NPC. So like it all makes sense.
Okay, so you mentioned ugliness, and I want to ask you a question about that. And we talked about it when we talked about your book. When we did your book signing during the conference. Why is beauty the opposite of communism? What is it about beauty and ugliness? Ugliness in people, or beauty in society, or in the world?
Beauty is the thing that requires the most sacrifice of all to create, right? Like, and it requires the most time, and it requires the most effort and energetic input. The mountains that we see are beautiful because they took like thousands of years to emerge, and it came through like the pressure between plates mashing against each other to create, right? It takes time and effort to build a beautiful baby, to raise a beautiful child, and then to build a beautiful lineage takes multiple generations of, honestly, like, people don't like to hear this, but what's the word? Intentional breeding. Like, no one likes to talk about that, but like, you know, the royals did it. You know, the noble classes did it in the past, and they wanted healthy, strong, powerful families, and they went and they specifically married people who were also strong, vital, energetic, and like who have some sort of spirit about them. You know, you want to go and marry someone with fire and energy, genetics, beauty, all this sort of stuff, and you want to create babies, and then you want to find other families who have those same sort of values. This isn't a Nietzschean idea. Like, to create the Übermensch is going to be a multi-generational endeavor to build human beings of, and I'm just going to say it, like, of superior strength, of superior character, of superior genetics, of superior lineage. Like, that is a project. And it happens in everything. Like, culture takes generations to build, and it takes generations of strong leadership. And you have beautiful cultures that emerge from really strong leadership. Architecture, like, you know, you go through Europe, medieval Europe, you know, I mentioned this last time, is, you know, you see these grand castles, or in the East, these grand temples. They took hundreds of years to build. They were beautiful because they took generations to build. The people who started didn't see the end. A marble sculpture, sitting there and putting the work into that, like Fractal and Crypt, you know, that sculpture that he created that he sold for 5 freaking Bitcoin. Like, all of this stuff takes time and energy. And ugly wants to destroy everything and do it quickly. So ugliness is that which happens quickly. Ugliness is high time preference, if you want to put it in a Bitcoin frame of reference, whereas beauty is the ultimate of low time preference. And, you know, communism is this idea that every person can have the same thing. You know, there's no property rights. We all must share. We must equalize everything. And in order to equalize everything, we can't have any variation, so everything needs to look the same. There's 2 flavors of wine. There's red and white. There's no brands, there's no labels, there's none of this sort of stuff. There's no flavor, there's no color, there's no differentiation, there's no beauty. It's all fucking sameness. And sameness is very efficient. It's very quick. You know what I mean? Like, if we just paint everything fucking gray, we don't have to think about it. But there's nothing alive about it. Like, you go to a gray city, how do you feel? You feel gray, you feel dead, it's fucking ugly. Whereas you go to something colorful, which, you know, there was tension, there was, like, we were talking about relationships before, you know, chemical tension, polarity comes from difference. Like, this is another thing that is, you know, really corrupt with the modern world, is men have become closer to women, women have become closer to men, and there's no chemical polarity anymore. So now you don't have, like,
the attraction.
Exactly, there's no attraction, there's no vitality, there's no strength, there's no chemistry, there's no charge, there's no quality, there's just a bunch of quantity of sameness.
And it takes me back to this beautiful sentence of yours from that same article: power is the capacity to channel energy. And that also ties me back to energy is something that always exists. In order for it to flow efficiently and in the most beautiful way, you need those polarities, you need those dualities, so that there is charge, there is movement, and things flow naturally from one opposite to the next. And I think a lot of what we're seeing in the world today is just trying to, as you said, gray everything out so that everything is dumbed down. You know, I always say that society is right now on a ventilator. It's like completely asleep, and it's by design. So so I totally agree with you, and this is beautiful. And just to end up on a message of hope, what kind of words of hope can you give my listeners that it's hard, yes, but
it's not hard, actually. It's really easy. The words
Yeah.
of hope are this: is that you're stronger and better than you fucking been told. You know, that's the thing.
Yes.
Like, and you can be great, you can be excellent, you can be the best, you can be powerful. But don't be fucking guilty about being that.
yes,
Like, literally, just stop falling for the guilt lies.
Yes.
Like, everything is designed around you to make you feel fucking guilty, to make you abdicate literally the power that you fucking have inside you. So go out there, claim it, be fucking unapologetic, build, create, love, travel, see, climb, all of that sort of stuff. Be ascendant. And that means coming to terms with the fact that power is a beautiful thing. Power doesn't corrupt, power only corrupts the weak. Be strong, be powerful, be responsible, be loving, be compassionate, be courageous, be just, be respectful, have self-control, like all of these virtues. They're all the virtues that are in the Bushido of Bitcoin. So that's the message. Rise up, ascend. You're going to leave people behind. It's their fucking duty to come with you or stay behind. That's it.
Amen. Aho. Where can people follow you, find you, continue consuming more of that?
Of that. Okay.
Greatness.
So that article that you mentioned
Lord.
is... Lord Svetski.
Lord Svetski.
That specific article that you're reading, Uber Money, is in the Bitcoin Times. So people can check that out, bitcointimes.io. Twitter is probably the best place to follow me. Svetski writes, W-R-I-T-E-S, so like writing, which I'm sure will be in the show notes. Svetsky.info has all of my links, right? So it's going to take you to a link tree. It has like the UnCommunist, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. But yeah, the thing I'm most excited about in the next couple of months is like the Bushido of Bitcoin
And Satlantis.
as the book, and Satlantis
We
as the
didn't
product.
have time to talk about it, but what I will do is I'll put a link to the presentation about it so people can check out what Satlantis is. Beautiful startup, so you should pay attention to it. And if you want to become a CT community leader or ambassador, then you should get in touch with Aleks and take it from there. Thank you so much, dear. That was fascinating, and we'll do it again.
100%.
Good.
I love it.
Thank you so much for all your help for me in this community. Appreciate it. Thanks. Love it. Yay!
Good? All right.
And we're out.
Words of wisdom, Alex.